Recall that our fan duct cover printed fairly well on one side, but on the bottom side there was some roughness. So let's see if we can improve the print quality simply by reorienting the model. In FlashPrint, we'll choose File, Examples, Air Duct Cover, and yes. So there's our model. Let's zoom in to take a look at it. So we saw that by adding supports on the bottom, that gave us a rough result. But with this particular model, because it's shaped the way it is, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to click Rotate, and for the X axis, I'm going to rotate the model 55 degrees. So obviously, some supports will be needed, otherwise the model will fall over while it's printing. And you can see there's just a tiniest little area where the model is actually touching the bed, just that edge, that bottom edge of that tab that's sticking out there. Turn off rotation, click on supports, and notice that my overhang threshold is 55 degrees. And I have a pillar size of 2.5. I'll knock that down to 1.5 so that there'll be smaller, finer supports, and then click Auto Supports. The supports are added, but if I rotate around, you can see what's happened is because the model is rotated, it doesn't need as many supports as it did previously. Even though this part of the model is at an angle, the angle is steep enough that the layers will be able to print consecutively without needing supports. The only supports that are needed are for those little bits where the model would otherwise be printing in midair, and those bottom edges, again, where the model would be printing in midair if those supports weren't there. So let's see what happens. I'll go back to the regular screen, click Start Slicing, click Restore Defaults to make sure I'm working from a default state. I definitely will need a raft, yes, to hold all of that up. I'll click on Supports, and I'll tweak the spacing a little bit, just a little bit, to make sure that the supports don't actually melt into the model itself. And I don't need any solid top layers this time, because when I click Slice and Slice Preview, you see there's really I don't need a platform for the model to rest on. The supports are actually just holding up those 2 points there on the model and that bottom edge of the model. Notice there are no supports in here, even though that's an overhanging section, but bridging should be able to take care of that small area nicely, meaning the filament will be held on one side as the nozzle moves across. It'll attach to the other side, and the filament will bridge that gap without sagging. Theoretically, let's print it and find out and see what we get. And here's the printed model with the support still attached. You can see that this front side is nice and clean, even cleaner than our earlier print. But when we look at the bottom, it is much better, much smoother, much nicer than the original print. And when we remove the supports and attach it to the second part of the air duct model, you can see the difference, the rough bottom using supports and a nice smooth surface here where we avoided using supports. So 2 lessons to be learned here. One is that you should avoid using supports as much as you possibly can. It's very difficult to get a completely clean model when you're using supports. The second lesson is that simply reorienting or rotating a model can go a long way to helping you to reduce or even eliminate the need for supports.